Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe if you have a friend, a colleague, a relative, associate, enemy, any and all in between. It is appreciated. Now, quick apology. This video I was actually supposed to do yesterday, but as fortune would have it, I ended up on a bit of an adventure, a bit of an excursion, shall we say, to go pick up a brand new puppy. And as such, coming back, I also had to pick up some other things, then getting into the house, trying to get them situated in and amongst, everything else was kind of going on. Time just wasn't really marrying up. So the topics might be a little bit outdated to some. However, I wanted to give my take and I want to see what you guys think of it. So yeah, look, without further ado, let's get into it. Right, look, so the first thing I want to talk about is the press conference that took place for the 12th of July card taking place at New York. Where is it? The Louis Armstrong Stadium, the 14,000 seater tennis stadium they got out there. I've never actually seen it before, but looking at the picture that's been posted, it looks pretty cool, and it might actually be a pretty nice venue for boxing, and I'm assuming it probably isn't as expensive as the Barclays or definitely not Madison Square Garden, but again, one thing's a bit weird. They have these press conferences, which obviously is like these main event press conferences, no undercards on there, even though the undercard has already been solidified and is like in place. It's I understand obviously it's the main attractions is the main event, but you would think the opening press conference would be a little bit more centered around the entire event and not just the main event fights. But cool, either way. So look, you got Edgar Berlanga versus Hamza Shiraz, and you've got Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda as the co-main events. To me, totally fine with that. I mean, the whole card, I think it's supposed to kind of be in celebration a little bit of the Puerto Rican Day Parade that normally takes place in New York. So obviously Edgar Berlanga, obviously Puerto Rican heritage. So is Subriel Matias, who's on the undercard. I'm trying to think, they're the only two. Well, I guess Shakur Stevenson is half Puerto Rican by heritage as well, and then obviously I think you've got Dominican Republic in what's his name, Alberto Puello, and you've got Cuba in David Morrell. So big Spanish speaking contingent there. It should be a pretty cool thing. Now, to be honest, I enjoyed the press conference for the most part. It was nice, obviously, having sort of Eddie Hearn up there along with like Shakur, doing a lot of the sort of talking back and forth for them. Hamza Shiraz and Spencer Brown was kind of doing their thing. Edgar Berlanga was obviously doing his New York bit, his New York steez, and I'm not 100% sure on how I feel about the flagrant use of the N-word by him in particular. I understand sort of cultural things and I guess communities, ethnicities and stuff can get a little bit cross-sectioned, but I don't know, it didn't really sit well with me, especially when you're not kind of talking to someone that falls within that same spectrum of individual. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but certain things I feel like should be left on the block. That goes for business, that goes for just life in general. Like, there's a time and a place to use certain language, to use certain behavior, to just do certain things in it. Like they say, whether it's you want to call it code switching or whether you just want to call it adapting to the environment, I just don't think that was the right place, nor the right person, nor the right environment or the right demographic, because there's a lot of people in and around that environment that ain't of the cultures that they're referring to or that maybe he comes from, and then you're going to get people feeling like, okay, so that's licensed to do the same thing for them. Now, I don't really know, it don't really strike it for me. Like I said, I feel like certain things you keep for certain occasions, for certain people in it, especially after what just happened with the WBO and their basic sort of their shot warning about any flagrant you know, racial or other abuse of champions or anyone else within their rankings. So I don't know, but look, the press conference itself, I was intrigued in it. From what I can see, it looks like that fight is going to be live on DAZN, not DAZN pay-per-view. So I think that if that's the case, is going to be good, especially considering that we definitely got, I think, 2 pay-per-views the week after, which is the Manny Pacquiao Mario Barrios one, and then obviously Daniel Dubois and Alexander Usyk, which is definitely going to be a pay-per-view on the UK side. If it's not, I will be majorly surprised and I will be extremely grateful, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be shelling out 2 sets of money. So if that ring card isn't, I'm going to be very happy about that. But yeah, look, I'm intrigued in the entire card. Subriel Matias versus Alberto Puello should be interesting. I think David Morrell versus Imam Khartiev is going to be my personal fight of the night. That's the one I'm going to be looking most forward to. We will definitely be doing a watch along into the wee hours of the morning. So yeah, we'll get that one wrapped up and ready to go. Okay, so look, I was actually going to put up a bit of the footage from the Tundé Ajayi and Simon Jordan interaction from the other day to see basically how I felt and how I'd give my take on it. Now, because it's been a few days since it has happened, I know several other channels have done so. I know I saw one with Beats earlier on. I know Ring IQ's done one, and I'm pretty sure by now there's one by G-Man. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure he would have had his say on that one as well. Look, long and short of it is, Simon Jordan basically said he believes that that Callum Smith is better than Joshua Buatsi and he would make him the favourite for that fight. Tundé disagreed, which he should, that's his guy. But then he said, who has Callum Smith fought and beat that is of proven world level for you to suggest that he's further along or that he's the favourite against Anthony Yarde? Now, initially when I heard that, I thought, okay, you say who has he beat, and we're only going to stick to the light heavyweights here, because if you look at the entire resume, like, it's a clear Callum Smith thing, but we're going to keep it in context of the light heavy. Now, it was smart of him to say it in that particular way, because who has he beat of proven world level? The answer is no one. And I'm going to be totally honest, and the reason I say that is because Joshua Buatsi, while he was number 1, 2, 3, 4, very high up in all the sanctioning bodies, he has never beaten a proven world-class competitor thus far that we've seen. The closest he would have had to that is Callum Smith. I mean, now you may say Craig Richards, but again, we're gonna circle back to this, but the whole Craig Richards thing, unfortunately, is getting brownie points off of a loss, which is obviously the same thing that happens with Anthony Yarde, and that's not the way that we're going to do this one. So if you look at Buatsi, it's fair to say he's not of proven world level at 175. Ultimately, that's the case. Now, if we look at basically when he says Anthony Yarde beat Lyndon Arthur twice, who went points with Dimitri Bivol, right? Okay, now that's fair, but Dimitri Bivol dropped Lyndon Arthur in the fight. Was near to stopping him, but Arthur managed to sort of hang on. Okay, cool. But then you say, okay, well, even though again, now we're talking about resumes overall here, Callum Smith fought Canelo Alvarez. Now you say Bivol's better than Canelo, that's fair, but Callum Smith didn't get dropped by Canelo. He also fought him at a lower weight that he was struggling to make on 5 weeks notice, which is the same as what Arthur had for Bivol. So I guess in that frame, maybe you say that the Arthur win would hold more credence in that sense, right? Okay, but let's look at the whole thing objectively now. And again, we're just going to look at the light heavy. So we're not even going to think about Canelo. We're not thinking about George Groves and the, the WBSS and all of that. That's all to the side. Because that has already showed that he's proven to be at a world level, especially at 168. Whether he or not he can get there 175, we don't know. Both guys fought Artur Beterbiev. Both guys got knocked out by Artur Beterbiev. Now, Yard got knocked out in the 8th round, and Smith got knocked out in the 7th. Admittedly, Yard did have a slightly better performance against Beterbiev than Smith did. I mean, I think I gave Smith maybe 1 round against Beterbiev, and I gave Yard 2. Some other people may have given him 3. And I think on the scorecards, up until that 8th round, I think there was 1 scorecard that had him winning 5 of the rounds, which I don't agree with in any way, shape or form, but cool, there's that. So you say, okay, Yard lost to Beterbiev better than Smith did, so I'll give him that. Yard lost, and Tundé also, and this is very important. Tundé, when talking about Smith, he also was talking about George Groves. He said he beat a British guy in George Groves at the end of his career. Basically, he's like a washed up George Groves, that's what he said. Now again, even though we're not talking about the 168 for this argument, I'm addressing it because Tundé said it. So he beat a washed up George Groves, who was proven world level, won the WBSS, won the WBC Diamond Belt, and also won the WBA super middleweight title as well. Okay, but he beat a washed up George Groves. What was Sergey Kovalev when Anthony Yard fought him? Because he probably had about the same amount of experience as a professional at that time that Callum Smith had in terms of fights. Wasn't Kovalev, quote unquote, old and washed up? Wasn't that what you said? It's all about timing, and we've got him at the perfect time. Didn't he lose 2 fights to Andre Ward? You know, controversial, possibly, but he lost 2. He lost 1 by stoppage. Didn't he get knocked out by Aleida Alvarez like 2 fights before the Yard fight? He beats Yard in the 11th round. In that fight, I gave Yard 1 round, which was literally the round that he won, the 8th round. Then proceeds to get knocked out by Canelo Alvarez afterwards. So, with all of that, if a washed up George Groves isn't worthy to be on his resume, why is it now that all of a sudden, like, it's not highlighted that a washed up Sergey Kovalev you couldn't get past? Okay, cool. Anyway, 175. So we've got Joshua Buatsi as Callum Smith's biggest win at 175, and Lyndon Arthur is Anthony Yard's biggest win. So let's look at who their biggest wins were. So Joshua Buatsi's biggest wins, Craig Richards, Dan Aziz, and Hutchinson. And in that run, basically cleaned out the British domestic level. You know, he had the Commonwealth title, won the British, won the European. I think he had the English title before that as well. So 3 titles. So we know that he was the king of Britain at that time, and you know, European. He was definitely European level. So we got there. Lyndon Arthur. Okay, so who's his best wins? Now initially you would have said Dex Spellman. You would have said Brian Suarez. You would have said Anthony Yard, to be fair, because he did beat Anthony Yard first. And then you say Liam Cameron. Okay, well, the Liam Cameron one, it almost aged well until Ben Whittaker basically rewrote history, rewrote the narrative based on that 2nd round stoppage, where, you know, Arthur maybe had a bit of a stake out with him. But then there's obviously that first fight, so we put a little asterisk on that. Dex Spellman, that one's not anything to shout home about. Brian Suarez, I mean, to win an IBO World Title, a title belt that basically, look, if we're being honest, it means nothing. The IBO, I'll tell you what the IBO reminds me of, right? It's like that friend that's got bare celebrity friends. So when they go out with the celebrity friend, they're in the pack. Oh, who's that guy? Like, and people interested to know who that guy is. But when they're by themselves, nobody cares. That's kind of what the IBO is like. When it's coupled with the WBA, the WBO, or the IBF, the WBC, like when it's coupled with other belts, it's a good accompaniment. But by itself, they don't call mandatories. Like, their rankings are, it's mad the way their rankings work. You request for that belt to be on the line, and they either say yes or they say no. It's not recognized by the other 4. Now, whether that should mean anything or not, I don't know. But what I do know is it's even like of belts that aren't a part of that mix, like the Ring Magazine belt, for instance. That's kind of seen as the holy grail. Only the best of the division get that. It's a bit different than, but the IBO is at the bottom of everyone's list, no matter how you look at it. So I wouldn't really call it a legit. It's probably on the same level as the WBA Gold, and it's on a lower level than the regular title, which isn't anything special nowadays as well. So okay, they won that against Brian Suarez. I personally think Joshua Buatsi, Craig Richards, I think Hutchinson, I even think that Shakan Pitters and Dan Aziz would have beat Brian Suarez for that belt as well. So that's my opinion. I could be wrong. Yeah, so those are the victories that he has. Now he's got the victory over Yacht. They traded victories there, so we still don't know where that level is. But his highest level outside of the IBO, if you want to call it a world title, fine, call it a world title, it's Commonwealth. That's the highest level he got to, is winning the Commonwealth. Some people have it above the British, some people have it below the British when you go through the steps. But either way, it's in and around that region, that level of belt. So Joshua Buatsi holding the European trumps the Commonwealth. Him being number 1 and 2s and 3s across all the rankings has to mean something as well. So when you just look at the level of wins, not who they fought, but the level of wins, it's Callum Smith all day. That's being objective. If you look at who they fought, as I said, they both fought Beterbiev. And one thing I will give Anthony Yarde is he gives it a go. He doesn't almost resign himself to, I'm not going to win this. So he will go for it. He put in a better performance than Smith did against Beterbiev. And you could say he put in a better performance than Smith did against Canelo. But ultimately, they were losses for both guys. I'm not rating you based on your best losses or how you lost the fight. I'm rating you best on how you won the fight. And even if we talk about the losses, as I said, Smith fought Canelo, who knocked out Kovalev after Kovalev knocked out Yarde. So even in that system, if you're going to do it on the losses thing, that kind of ranks him a margin above anyway. That's my take on it. Look, I understand that Tunde's got to talk up his guy, but the one thing he's got to start doing, especially if he wants to actually be taken seriously and win arguments, quote unquote, legitimately, you can't just be yelling and just trying to talk over people so that their point can't be heard. So that everyone knows when people start doing that, that means that their argument is weak. If he was able to properly get that argument across and have the dialogue and be able to then come back and dissect everything that the other person is saying, whether it's Simon Jordan or anyone else, cool. Like, you can win that and you can prove people wrong, but just yelling over people ain't the way to get it done. That's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Oh, and I guess while we're here, there's no basis picks, but obviously shout outs to Shannon Ryan. I'm sure by the time you watch this, she would have already fought. I'm expecting to see a nice little victory. I'm hoping for a stoppage. But yeah, I think that's a comfortable victory for her either way. Shout out to Guadalupe Lupita Medina, who's also fighting tonight in California on UFC Fight Pass. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of that fight. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing another W on her column. And if we're going to talk about Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen, ultimately I think Dave Allen's going to win. Wait, I've changed my mind. No, I think Johnny Fisher's going to win. Fisher on points. That's my prediction. And with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. But for right now, Star Hardcore Casual out.